Honorable Robert Lewis presiding.
All right, petitioner's next witness then?
Yes, Your Honor. My next witness is Connie Bible. It appears that she is logged in.
Connie Bible present? Connie Bible present?
I can see her logged in. I'm texting her to make sure she's not muted. She's having a technical difficulty, Your Honor.
She can join the club.
There she is, Your Honor.
Are you Connie Bible?
I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Please state your name in full, then spell your last name for the court's record.
Connie Lynn Bible, Bible.
Go ahead with your questions.
Connie, what is your line of work?
Currently, I am a nanny for a family with one child, an 18-month-old girl.
Do you have any experience as an education provider for children?
Yes, I've worked with children my whole life, starting as a child with daycare. My mom started and ran 3 state certified daycares, which we were always present after school in those daycares. And then as I was able to work legally, I worked in daycare and childcare settings. And then educationally, my background is in elementary education, reading K through 12, and elementary math K through 8.
And Connie,
I'm sorry, I also have 30 hours of early childhood education credits as well.
Connie, do you have children as well?
I do. I have one daughter, 16 years old.
And can you tell the court how you and I met?
I responded to a post on Nextdoor where you were looking for childcare for basically Orion. And then I responded to that and we met and I started working for you shortly, like within a few days.
And what was the hours that you typically worked for me?
I started from 6:30 to 9 and then took Orion to school and then picked him up at noon and worked until you got home, most days about 4:30.
Is it your understanding that Orion was on half days at that time?
Yes.
When I spoke with you and gave advice on caring for Orion, was I detailed and seemed consistent with his needs of what to expect from him?
Yes, I mean, I think from the very beginning you were very clear about what kinds of behaviors I might see in regards to the probable, then at the time, diagnosis of autism, which, you know, wasn't a formal diagnosis at that time. It was something that you highly suspected. And you were very clear about, you know, how he might respond or behave and really giving me tips on, you know, how to handle him as far as, you know, when he gets overwhelmed with emotions and, you know, what kinds of techniques I could use to, you know, assist him in, you know, regulating that.
And even though he was on half days, did you use your educational background to help him complete schoolwork?
Yes, usually in the afternoons when he would get home, we would work on writing, which was like a self-dictated story that he would generate, and then I would help him with like complete sentences, punctuation, finger spacing, kind of really focusing and taking time so that his writing could be legible. We worked on math. Usually there were math packets in his backpack from school that we completed. Reading, like we would read stories together. So it was very much structured for a good portion of that time in an educational way.
Can you tell me what was the state of my home during the times that you were present?
Every time I was there, things were, in their place. Tidy. I mean, there were the typical messes, if you want to call it, that were kid related as far as toys that the kids were playing with. But other than that, everything was, well kept and put away and organized.
Was there adequate food available for you to give Orion during your care?
Yes, there was always different food groups available, proteins, fruits, meats, milk. He always had, cereal, eggs, those kinds of things were always available.
Did you find it easy or difficult to feed Orion?
It was challenging a lot of the time because he is a very particular eater. Finding something that he was interested in at the time was a trick, something that he would eat. So it was a challenge because of his, kind of pickiness about what he would eat at certain times.
And when I gave you advice on how to care for him, how did I speak around getting him to eat or the boundaries that I wanted him to follow?
It was generally, that you wanted him to eat something, that, we're in those groups, giving him options. I think what worked best for him was to say, here's your 2 or 3 choices. Which one would you like? Giving him acceptable choices and letting him decide.
What can you tell the court about your observations of me as a mother when you were able to observe me interacting with my children?
I would categorize it as a typical mother-child relationship where there was evidence of a strong bond, of you caring for the needs of your children, like before school, making sure they had food. If the weather was cold, you were always, well, wear this jacket, take this, make sure you, do these things. And as far as the kids are concerned, they were always, talking about you in a positive way. When will mom be home? Looking forward to the fact that you were going to be home. I mean, it was just, what you would typically see in a normal mother-child positive relationship where there is, that mutual bond.
Your Honor, I want to just check real quick because I don't see you on the video and I wanted to make sure you're still present.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Did Orion speak with you about any anxiety related to his behavior?
Behavior just in general, or?
Let me rephrase, please. Did Orion say anything about why his behavior was different during the period that you were watching him versus what I had told you historically was his behavior?
Objection, hearsay and leading.
Well, it's not leading. I'll take the answer and see if it's hearsay.
When I first started working with Orion, I know that there was some family issues, and I don't know completely all the details surrounding that. That was never part of the conversation that I knew the whole story about what happened. I do know that there was a short separation where Tacey and the boys were not together, and Tacey was, or I'm sorry, Orion
I'm sorry, I need you to
was.
stop. I'm sorry, I need you to stop. I sustained the objection. She indicated it wasn't part of the conversation, so it's not responsive to your question. Next question?
Did you witness Orion saying anything with respect to his relationship with me?
Objection, hearsay.
Again, I'll take the answer and find out what it's about. So, listen to, the question is, did Orion say anything about his relationship with Ms. Traverso?
Okay. I specifically, there was nothing out of the ordinary in conversation that you might have with a child about their parents. I mean, we didn't specifically sit around and talk about mom, specifically.
Next question?
Did Orion have any challenging conversations with you about politics and or religion?
Yes, those subjects.
I'm sorry? Did you make an objection?
Yes, I objected on the grounds of hearsay.
All right, again, I'll take the answer and see what it's about, and then I'll make a ruling.
There were a few times that Orion made a statement about President Trump about not liking this thing or the other thing. I think it was in regards to immigration was the one that I specifically remember. It came up a few times, and I said, well, what is your reason for not liking that? And he didn't have a whole lot of reasons. And so I just said, well, I think if you're going to, make a statement or an opinion that, you should have reasons to back that up. And so just, to kind of provide a little, critical thinking and why are you thinking this way? And not to say that he shouldn't think that way, but, what are your reasons? As far as religion goes, we were in the car at one point. It was around Christmas time, and there was a religious themed song on. And so he asked some questions about that. And so, again, I framed all of my responses towards Orion in the context of what my opinions were. And so we did have a few conversations along those lines that were always led by him bringing it up. It wasn't ever anything that I inserted into the conversation.
Okay, with regard to the objection on hearsay grounds, I overrule the objection. It doesn't seem to be particularly relevant to anything I have to decide, but on hearsay grounds, it's admissible.
Connie, when you shared those types of conversations with me and asked what I thought with respect to how you were interacting with Orion, what did I tell you? And I'm laying a foundation here for my parenting style.
You always said that you wanted the boys to be subjected to lots of different points of views and perspectives and opinions, and that you wanted them to, be able to reach their own conclusions about the world and how it works based on their gathering of information. And you were always perfectly fine with me talking about any subject with them as long as, the discussion was framed in the context of this is my view or this is my opinion. So the conversations we had were always structured in that regard. And again, we're always led by Orion.
With your knowledge of having spent time with Orion, with your experience as an educator of young children, with your experience as a mother, how do you think Orion would respond to seeing me drastically less?
I think it would be detrimental. I think that children deserve to have access to both parents, and outside of any proven, abuse or neglect on your part, you deserve to be a parent to these children full time.
Did you observe me ever abusing or neglecting my children?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Thank you. Ms. Bible, when did you start working for Ms. Traverso?
It was mid-December. I started a text conversation with her on December 14th.
I'm sorry, what year was this?
That was this year, 2019.
And how long was the length of your employment?
I was there till mid-February.
So you only worked for her for 2 months.
2.5 months.
And how often did you see the children?
5 days a week.
Every week?
Every other week.
So it's every other week?
Yes, because
All right.
they were with the other parent the other time.
So in 2.5 months, you actually only had 5 weeks with the children?
Yes.
And were there ever occasions where Ms. Traverso asked you to stay late?
I don't recall there being any. There might have been once where she was hung up at the store or something, but it was very minimal. It was not out of the ordinary.
And then it's your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, that she was home by 4:30 every day?
Yes, a lot of times it was a little bit earlier than that.
And so you testified that you never saw you had never had any concerns about neglect or domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware that Ms. Traverso was arrested for domestic violence?
Objection. Relevance. She was not present.
Overruled.
Are you aware? You can answer.
I was aware that there was a situation between Casey and her current relationship at the time. I do not know any of the details of that, just that there was a situation.
So you're not aware of the fact that domestic violence occurred in their relationship?
No,
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you aware that there was a restraining order issued against Ms. Traverso by
Objection.
Sarah?
Overruled. Were you aware of it or not?
Yes, I did know that there had been one. Yes.
So given the fact that you just testified that absent any kind of proof of domestic violence or neglect, that any reduction in time with the children for Ms. Traverso would be a detriment to them. Isn't that true?
Yes, that is what I believe.
So now knowing that there have been allegations of domestic
Objection.
violence against Ms.
She already-
Traverso,
I'm sorry. I cannot rule on or listen to objections if people are trying to talk over each other. All that happens is we have to start the process over again. So let her finish the question. Don't answer, and then you make your objection. Do your question.
does your being informed of the fact that she was arrested for domestic violence and a restraining order was issued change your position with regard to your opinion that she shouldn't have less time with the children?
Is it okay to answer? Didn't know if there was going to be an objection.
She hasn't objected.
Okay.
Okay to answer. And again, counsel, I can make the rulings for the witness. You don't need to assist
Sorry,
me in
Your Honor.
that regard. Answer the question.
It does not change my opinion. It's two totally separate relationships. Casey's ability to parent her children is outside of the fact that she may have had some situations with her partner.
So is it your opinion then that domestic violence between spouses has no effect on children?
I'm not saying that it doesn't.
She's not qualified to answer that question.
Okay, well, unfortunately, you spent some time trying to bring up her dealing as an educator and all these other things, I guess so that she could offer her opinion. So you can't start that process and then ask people to stop. I'll admit to you that
Yes,
because
sir.
she's not really qualified to be an expert, her opinion has very little weight with me, but since you brought it up, answer the question.
So, I'm not saying that it has no effect on children. Obviously, everything that adults do in a child's life has an impact, as well as being separated from someone who has been a primary caregiver in their life since birth. That has an effect as well. And so I think those two things definitely need to be considered and what is in the best interest of the children. The domestic violence, was it a daily thing? I don't know.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect?
Just to clarify what you just said, I want to make sure what I'm hearing is that you acknowledge domestic violence between partners can, to some extent, impact the children, I would assume because they're present. But knowing that the children were not present for the incident, do you see value in reducing my parenting time as a mother for my children?
No, especially if the children were not present. That totally changes things, in my view, even in my response before, where it impacts the children. Of course, they're going to sense, tension between the parties and be impacted by that. But the fact that they did not witness you being violent or the other party being violent, yes, I don't think that should impact your ability
Ms. Bible,
to carry yourself.
you've answered the question. Do you have any additional questions?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Bible, you can be excused. Thank you for your testimony, and don't discuss your testimony with any other potential witness.
Thank you.
Your next witness?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm calling Julie Sparkman. I just notified her to log in.
Did we just freeze?
No.
No, we did not freeze. I'm waiting for my witness to dial in. She's trying to log in. Again, technical difficulties. It appears she's working to connect to the audio presently.
Sorry. It was just me being catty.
I am so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is your name Julie Sparkman?
Yes, my name is Julie Sparkman.
This is Judge Lewis. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes.
Would you state your name in full, then spell your last name for the court's record?
My name is Julie Sparkman, Sparkman.
Go ahead with your question.
Julie, what is your profession?
I am a home care aide.
And what credentials do you have to obtain for your job?
It is a healthcare certificate through the state of Washington.
How did you get into this line of work?
I was requested to become an HCA for someone who was about to start receiving services.
Are you also a parent?
Yes, I am.
Is your child autistic?
One of them is.
Do you tend to work more with autistic children in your line of work?
Yes, I do.
In your professional opinion, how important is it for autistic children to have a parent that advocates for their diagnosis and needs?
In my opinion, that is crucial.
Can you give me some examples of ways a parent can help their autistic child with their needs and diagnoses?
So in my experience, I have seen parents need to advocate for the use of compression vests, weighted blankets, medications, ABA therapies.
Your Honor, if I could just object at this point, she's testifying like she's an expert witness, and she wasn't named as an expert witness, and I'm not sure how she's even related to this case.
Well, the witness list that I have indicates the word expert by her name, doesn't expressly say what it is she's an expert about, but.
I understand what that means.
So I'm going to go ahead and allow the testimony for now.
Right.
Julie, can you give me some examples of ways that a parent can harm their autistic child?
Through neglect, through all of the same venues as any other child, but additionally through lack of participation with their additional needs.
So if a parent is denying the possibility that their child is autistic, could that result in harm to that child?
It can result in lasting effects, definitely.
I want to turn to go ahead.
I'm sorry, just long-term negative impact.
So it's best for parents to identify the possibility their child is autistic and get them expedient services. Is that correct?
Well, whatever the diagnosis is.
So the diagnosis is important.
Yes.
I sent you a few items to review prior to your testimony. I'd like to refer the court to Petitioner Binder 5, Exhibit 46. This is a email exchange and Facebook exchange I had with the Senior Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at Safeway Albertsons.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get to the exhibit. Which exhibit?
46.
The grounding email one.
Right, so are you
Is this
asking
the-
the witness if she's seen the exhibit?
Yes, and I'm also bringing it up for the court to be looking at as well.
Okay, witness, do you know what exhibit she's talking about?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead with your questions then.
Did you read through that communication?
Yes, I did.
In your professional opinion, would you say that is an exemplary model of a parent advocating for their child's autistic needs?
Yeah.
I would say that this is definitely an example of a parent advocating for their child's needs. I'm not a diagnostician, so I can't say that it is or is not one need or another, but it is definitely an example of advocacy for the needs of this specific child.
In your professional opinion, what are some of the challenges you've experienced with feeding autistic children?
I have seen situations where when not offered a food that they can accept, one of these children may not eat at all, sometimes for protracted periods. I have seen examples where they eat the same thing daily at the same time for very long periods of time, and sometimes that switches later down the road if they become, bored or something with it. But I've seen that not change as well.
So would you say that as a parent of an autistic child, it can be difficult and challenging to get your child to eat a balanced sense of food groups every day?
As a parent, it most definitely has been a challenge for us, yes.
In your professional opinion, I'm going to switch gears here. What might be the result of separating an autistic child from one of their parents for a duration of time more than a few days?
Section calls for speculation.
Overruled, I'll allow the answer.
Okay, I need clarification. Am I answering that?
Yes, I'm allowing you to answer.
Okay, so sorry. So I would say any break in routine of that magnitude can be a definite point of disruption of just the overall ability to handle what life throws at them daily. Those daily challenges can become much, much harder.
So I want to clarify, it sounds like what you're saying is that autistic children need structure and routine and time with their parents?
That is crucial in my experience, yes.
I'm going to switch gears again. Are you familiar with the use of daily scorecards for children who are in special education classrooms?
Yes, I am.
I want to draw the court's attention, and Julie, I sent you an exhibit 55, which was a spreadsheet I made that this is
Objection lacks foundation. She's asking to refer to an exhibit that has not been admitted into evidence.
All right, well, I'm sorry, an expert witness can testify about opinions based on evidence which is not admissible, so I don't know what we're talking about yet, so I'll take the answer as an offer of proof and try to figure out what it is we are talking about.
Your Honor, this was Exhibit 55. It's called a summary analysis of Orion's performance in school. The respondent did not object to this item on my ER 904.
Okay, well.
That only goes to laying a foundation, Your Honor. It still hasn't been admitted.
As I indicated, it doesn't have to be admitted to ask an expert question about it. This isn't something the witness prepared, is that right?
This is not something the witness prepared. It is something I prepared.
Okay, if you want to ask her questions about it, do you have Exhibit 55 with you there, Ms. Barkman?
Yes, I do.
Ask her your question.
Thank you. Julie, to clarify, this is a spreadsheet where I totaled up all of Orion's special education scorecards and then matched them with the calendar of parenting time between myself and the respondent. Do you have an understanding of that?
Yes, I do.
When you look at this scorecard and the analysis that I did with Excel, what can you deduce?
There's a definite difference in the percentages and the numbers between the time frames between parents. That much is obvious.
And according to that variation, which parent appears to have Orion do better on her time?
The higher numbers would indicate to me that it would be Tacey as opposed to Kate.
Do you notice where I have bolded out the dates that are transition dates from one parent to another?
Yes.
And when we spoke about this exhibit, when I explained to you what it was prior, did you notice anything in particular about those transition days?
Those transition days seem to be markedly higher.
To clarify, markedly higher with whose transition? For Orion to go from which house to which house?
From the transition from Kate to Tacey shows a 10% increase in one of those transition days from the previous day.
Being that you have stated that autistic children have a hard time with transitions, what do you think of that?
What does she think? I'm sorry, what does she think of what?
What is your professional opinion of the fact that Orion does better on the days where he's transitioning to my home for parenting time?
That is an odd indicator. It's one I wouldn't expect because transitions themselves would seem to be an area where you would see some more challenges. It just would indicate to me that it's a situation this person is very comfortable with, even in a transition period. Sorry.
Thank you. Are you familiar with scoring reports filled out by teachers and parents to help evaluate a child for needing special education and IEP plans?
Yes, I am.
I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit 16. This is from Petitioner Binder 2, page 12.
You're moving to admit Exhibit 16?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Do you have any objection?
Hold on, Your Honor. I'm trying to get to it. This is the first we've referred to Exhibit 16.
IEPs that we just all filled out.
Oh, it's just the IEPs. That's fine. I have no objection.
16 is admitted.
Looking at page 12 of 154, Julie, I sent this to you. As a home care worker who specializes in autistic children, if you looked at this report, which parents' numbers would be more meaningful to you?
So in my capacity, I have to take that from the client's point of view. So in this case, it would be from that child's point of view. And so where they identified struggles would have to take more precedent. But if I find that there's a discrepancy in paper, which I cannot resolve because of communication difficulties or some such thing, then I have to go by the most professional standard. So whatever closely matches the doctor or teacher would be more what dictates the challenges that I have to specifically consider, if that makes sense.
Can you observe on that report that the mother's scores, my scores, are more consistent with the teacher's evaluations?
I am actually having difficulty finding that one. I know I do have it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Julie, disregard that question. I see that
Okay.
that was a different sheet. So you're not, I don't believe I sent that to you specifically. Let's move on.
Okay.
I am going to admit into evidence Exhibit 7, page 87. I did refile this under seal per the objection on the respondent's ER 904.
I'm sorry, which exhibit are we referring to now?
Binder 1, Exhibit 7, specifically page 87.
Okay, do you have any objection to the admission of Exhibit 7?
I'm sorry. No, Your Honor, they're just medical records.
7's admitted.
Julie, did I send this to you? It is some notes from a visit with Kaiser regarding Orion.
No, I don't see that in what I was sent.
Okay. There's a statement that I made to a practitioner regarding Orion's behavior. If the court will allow it, I would like to read that statement out loud because I have a question for Julie about that statement.
Objection, Your Honor. I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay, well, apparently the statement, is it something in the exhibit I just admitted?
Yes.
Permissible to ask a witness to listen to something and then see if they have an opinion based on that, so I'll admit it allow it for that purpose.
So, Julie, I will read slowly. This is, again, a visit that the petitioner and the respondent, both myself and the boy's dad, had with a practitioner at Kaiser regarding his behavior, which had escalated quite a bit. This visit was on November 4th, 2019. When the practitioner asked me what my opinion was, I said this. Patient's symptoms are acutely worse. There have been significant stresses and changes at home. There was a domestic dispute in her home when the patient wasn't home, patient being Orion, where I was accused of hitting my current spouse. I was arrested.
Your Honor, she's paraphrasing. At this point, she's no longer reading. I object.
I overrule.
Her words on
Can
that.
you wrap up your summary so you can ask your question? We can get to the point of whatever it is you're trying to bring out.
Yes. I had indicated that there had been great stress. Kate then told Orion, so I was arrested. Kate then told Orion about it and obtained a restraining order preventing Tacey from seeing Orion for 3 weeks. He had been in school twice in 3 weeks due to unacceptable behavior. Mom thinks the change in routine and inability for Orion to see her caused the some change in behavior. Julie, what is your opinion as to whether there is a connection between what Orion would have been told, being separated from me, and him being autistic with respect to his behavior escalating?
I would say that those all sound like factors that would escalate my client, and I would assume that they would escalate other children as well.
Okay. The respondent and I have been on a 50-50 residential schedule with Orion and his brother for over 2 years. In your professional opinion, how do you think his well-being would be impacted if that schedule was drastically changed?
For children who have difficulties with minor transitions, that's a major transition, and that seems like it would have a more dramatic effect.
More dramatic relative to what?
Relative to the small transitions. So if you see some challenging behaviors that result in not being able to attend school, say, as an example, for the transition times between households, then you might see dramatically more during a transition for major life changes.
Safe parent? Mm-hmm. So keeping things consistent for the children with respect to parenting time and schedules and routines is more important for autistic children than other children.
In my experience, yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Thank you. Ms. Sparkman, do you have any connection with the petitioner?
No, I do not.
How do you know her?
So I have a friend who I have advocated with for special education and other related issues for many years, who asked me if I would be willing to talk to someone about providing some professional point of view.
Okay. But have you ever met Ms. Traverso in person?
No.
Objection, relevance.
Have you ever met the children in person?
No.
Have you ever reviewed any of the children's medical records?
No.
Have you ever had conversations with the children's doctors directly?
No.
Have you ever had any conversations with the children's therapists directly?
No.
So is it fair to say that your testimony today is only in general terms and not specific to this case?
Yes.
Now, in a situation where there is a family with an autistic child, what is the effect of domestic violence occurring between the parents?
Objection, the children were not present at that event.
That's not a legal objection, it's overruled.
Please answer the question.
The effect on any child is a negative impact. I would say that that is fairly universal, and that the impact of processing that could be more delayed for a child with autism.
And does it matter if the child actually witnessed it or not?
I think it matters more if they are aware that it is occurring. So if they did not directly witness it, but then were made aware of the situation, then it would matter. Whereas perhaps it might not have the impact if they were not aware.
And what about the effect of yelling at an autistic child and swearing at an autistic child? What effect would that have on a child with autism?
I would say that that would have a negative impact.
And do you think which would have a greater negative impact? A so-so diet or yelling and cursing at a child?
Those are hard to quantify because the so-so diet could massively impact someone over a longer period of time.
But physically,
but yelling at them might have the negative impact of reinforcing negative behaviors over time. So they're kind of hard to compare to one another, for me.
And if a child is on a schedule, week on, week off, so every other week they're without the other parent, how big of an impact is it going to make to adjust that downward even so that they see the other parent, say, 3 days a week instead of 7?
In a lot of cases, that's child specific. But the difficulty in processing, the protracted processing that can happen with autism, with transitions, could make that as big of a challenge as a change in school. Any change that affects their daily life that much could make that big of an impact.
But it could also be a positive impact, isn't that true?
It is true. That is true.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Yes, please. Julie, you stated that you're a mother. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
And a mother of an autistic child?
Yes.
Have you ever yelled at your child?
I have.
Do you know any mothers that have never, ever yelled at their children?
No, I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Recross.
Ms. Sparkman, I'm sorry, but have you ever yelled at your child to go the fuck back to bed when they've been asking for food?
No, I have not.
No further questions.
Further redirect.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Sparkman, you can be excused. Thank you for your testimony. Don't discuss your testimony with any other potential witness.
Okay, thank you.
Next witness.
Your Honor, the next witness is myself, but I would like to do a time check and ask 2 questions. A, when is lunch break? And B, how much time do I have left?
Well, lunch break is at noon. I don't know how much time you have left.
So my time is not going to be restricted, Your Honor?
I'm not planning on restricting it other than telling the parties that I've allocated, as they indicated on several occasions at readiness hearings, that it would take 1 day to try this case. So if you take longer than a day, you can expect that it's going to be delayed for quite a while. Because I don't have days just laying around. I have something scheduled for tomorrow. So, did you wish to call yourself as a witness or not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please state your name in full, then spell your last name for the court's record.
My legal first name is Laura Tacey Teresa Traverso. My last name is spelled Tango, Romeo, Alpha, Victor, Echo, Romeo, Sierra, Oscar.
Right, now I'm not going to make you ask yourself questions and then answer them, because that's usually not a very productive way to me to hear what it is you want to tell me. So I'm going to let you testify about what it is that you think that I need to know about the case and about your position in the case. And during the course of it, if you want to refer to exhibits or move further admission, then you can do that. If during the course of your testifying you hear the other side objecting, then you need to stop talking so I can rule on the objection, and then we'll let you proceed depending on what my ruling is. After you've testified, I may have some questions for you, and then you'll be cross-examined. Any questions about any of that?
No, Your Honor.
Go ahead then.
First off, Your Honor, the testimony and witnesses I've already presented to the court show that while I have been under a great deal of stress since October, that stress has been contributing.
I'm sorry, there's one thing I did say. You're not here to make closing argument at this point. So you're supposed to be giving me factual information during your testimony that you can argue later, and then I'll make my ruling. So this is not a time to sum up what your other witnesses have said. It's for you to tell me what it is you want me to know about the case. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am asserting to the court that I am the more stable parent in this case. The first thing that I will be bringing to the attention of the court is the fact that I am a homeowner and have owned my home since October 2015. I refer the court to Exhibit 4 in Binder 1. This is a deed in trust showing that I am the sole homeowner of my residence.
Okay, why don't we do this before we go much further. I have exhibits 1 through 62 have been marked for the petitioner, and 100 through 132 have been admitted or identified for the respondent. Have each of you gone over the other person's exhibits?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
So, Ms. Petrie, with regard to exhibits 1 through 62, can you tell me which ones you may be objecting to?
Oh. One moment, please, Your Honor. I believe I filed an objection, Your Honor, with regard to ER 904 submissions, in which a lot of my objections were noted there.
Okay, well, I'm trying to simplify the proceedings. If there are a bunch of these exhibits that are going to come in without objection, I'd rather just notice which ones are going to be objected to and admit the balance of them. But if we have to do them one by one, I suppose we can.
I'm trying to go through that right now, Your Honor. I'm taking a look at everything again.
And Mr. Traverso, I'm going to ask you the same question of the exhibits that have been marked for the respondents. Which ones are you objecting to? And I'm going to admit the rest.
Yes, Your Honor. I am prepared to answer that question when you are ready.
Well, let's not. I want Ms. Petrie to be able to focus on what you're doing, so I'm going to start with her, and then we'll go from you to you.
Of course, Your Honor.
Actually, I'm going to recess till 11:30, and then we'll come back on and deal with the exhibits.